All right, guys, we are going to Africa. So there's 14 artworks in our curriculum that cover Africa. We're talking about the years 1100 to 1980. Remember, after 1980 is the contemporary unit, and before 1100 was the prehistoric unit. We did have a couple pieces from Africa. Here's kind of a breakdown of the different civilizations or cultures. We don't call them tribes in Africa. You can say people, the Shona people, or culture. The different time periods and the different locations we're going to be talking about. All right, so we're going to start by taking notes on our two architectural pieces. So the first one is number 167, the conical tower and circular wall of Great Zimbabwe. And this is located in the country Zimbabwe. And the group is Shona people, 1000 to 1400. And it is made out of coursed granite blocks. And the College Board gives us two images. And then we have the Great Mosque of Djenne, which is in Mali, founded, so first built 1200 and then rebuilt 1906 to 1907. And the material here is adobe. All right, so we're going to first focus on the Zimbabwe, and then we're going to end with the mosque. Oh, timeout. All right, you guys remember the running horned woman? Do you remember where she was from? Anybody? All right, so she is found in what is now the Sahara Desert in Africa, up kind of where Algeria, Libya, and Niger meet right here. So the context that relates to Zimbabwe is the Shona people are from the Sahara Desert, right, where Running Horn Woman was found, and they migrated south to this site and then founded the kingdom Zimbabwe. So that's how the people got there. All right, context, Zimbabwe means house of stone, and then the country is named after the monument. So they built this architectural complex, which is now a monument, called it Zimbabwe, and now the country is named for this architectural complex. This whole site functioned as a royal residence. The king and the queen lived there, much like Machu Picchu, which we just recently talked about. The emperor of the Incan Empire lived in Machu Picchu. So Zimbabwe can relate because the king and queen of the kingdom resided here. There is also cemeteries, houses, and ritual sites. All right, we're going to talk about the stonework after we watch a little clip of a video. All right, so let's go zoom in on Zimbabwe. Where'd it go? So it has a little palace, so it's a royal residence. And if you zoom in on the great enclosure, you can see how it has a curved stone wall kind of enclosing this area. But there's all these different parts to it. There's the village, the great enclosure, which is where the monument is. Okay, so we're going to watch a video that kind of talks about this.
Between the town and the Royal Hill is a circular monument made with stone bricks. It's known as the Great Enclosure. It's believed to be either the Queen's residence or a temple. Granite blocks were cut into the same size and stacked up from the ground. There are no straight lines or right angles. It was entirely built in curves. It shows that stone masonry techniques at the time were highly developed. A conical tower stands inside. It's shaped like a granary and believed to have represented the power of the king. The descendants of the Shonas, the original people who founded the kingdom, still live in this area. The once flourishing kingdom suddenly disappeared during the 15th century. However, the Shona people who founded the kingdom continue to recount their glorious days in song.
Okay, so we need to write down about the masonry. Remember, masonry means stonework. They're using ashlar masonry here, which if you remember back from the Indigenous American unit, that just means the stonework is put together without mortar. So they're just fitted together very well, precisely cut. It is entirely built in curves. No straight cut bricks, no straight lines, they said. Conical tower is shaped like a granary. But how does that represent the king? Oh, hang on a second. The word conical. I remember using that word once before, and I was trying to think about where. And we talked about the law code of Hammurabi. Hammurabi is talking to the god Shamash, and he is wearing a conical cap or a conical hat, which means a cone. It's like a conical or conical. All right, so conical tower shaped like a granary, so it's kind of like a cone. It's kind of getting smaller as it emerges up. But how does that represent the power of the king? So it represents the power of the king because a granary is used to store food. So having control over the food symbolizes your power, your wealth, your generosity to give that food to the people. So that is how and why it represents the power of the king. All right, we're going to come back to this later. All right, so with the Great Mosque of Djenne, we're going to focus first on the materials, which is very different than the House of Stone in Zimbabwe. So we're going to be talking about adobe. So typical African architecture is built to be as cool as possible because of the hot African sun. And by the way, this information I would write for Great Zimbabwe. Therefore, most African architecture is made of mud brick walls having a thatched roof, which you can see in these little houses that's around the Great Zimbabwe. Because of being made out of mud brick, it has to be maintained in the rainy season, or much of the mud would wash away. A big perk of this is that it's cheap, it's inexpensive and easy to make. So how this relates to Great Zimbabwe is stone buildings are rare in traditional African art culture, making the Zimbabwe complex admirable from both architectural and an engineering point of view. So now we're going to start talking about the Great Mosque of Djenne in Mali. Okay, so here's where Djenne is in Mali, and it is primarily a French-speaking region of Africa. There's a lot of different languages being spoken in Africa. So this is made out of adobe, which is mud brick, and this is the largest mud brick structure in the world. So the type of adobe, the type of mud that is building this is really unique to this region. So I'm going to try to explain, you don't have to write all of this down, but on a promontory, which is a cliff peninsula above a floodplain on the Niger River on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, there's a really unique chemical mixture that results from the annual flooding that happens here. So it floods, which causes fish to be stranded on the land, which causes cows to come and then they graze, and then cows do their thing and they leave their chemical mixture, which helps create the mud here. So the chemical mixture results in bricks that can be made from combining the mud and the straw to be extremely strong. When the rainy season comes, adobe needs a fresh coat of plaster or mud to help protect it so it doesn't wash away. And overall, adobe brick is a sun-dried mixture of clay and straw. So for context, we're going to write down about this annual festival that preserves the building. It's called Plastering of the Great Mosque. It provides Djenne with an important community gathering and a celebration, so everybody works on this together. And overall, the health of the structure, right? How well it's standing, does it have cracks in it? The health of the structure symbolizes the vibrance and the health of the community. All right, so we're going to talk about some more context and then form, talking about some common features of a mosque. But for context, the king of Djenne converted to Islam in the 13th century, and he transformed his palace into a mosque. So that's how it became a mosque to begin with. So the function is to proclaim his new faith to his subjects. All right, common features of a mosque, because we have about 4 mosques altogether that we need to identify the features of a mosque. So they're all going to have a type of a courtyard. Most of them are going to have a fountain in the courtyard. I don't think this one does, it just has a courtyard. Minarets are tall towers that call people to prayer. So in the video we watched, the center minaret is the tallest part of this mosque, and you earn high social status by climbing that first during the festival. This whole mosque is built up on a platform to raise it to help with flooding, and also raising religious buildings just make them more sacred. They make them higher up to see. Remember, it's the center of the town. So the mihrab faces east towards Mecca, and that's every mosque is going to have a mihrab so that when people inside are praying, they know where to face. And Mecca is where the birthplace of the Islamic prophet Muhammad is from, and where the Kaaba is also located. And then architectural elements, there are engaged columns that act as buttresses. That just helps to support the walls. So not typical or not common. Oh, sorry, time out. Some more context. I'm just going to read this. The mosque was said to have been more beautiful and lavishly decorated than the Kaaba. This is when it was first built, when the king first destroyed his palace or changed it into a mosque. It was said to have been more beautiful than the Kaaba. And the Kaaba is the central shrine of Islam. So you can't make something more beautiful than the shrine of Islam. So because of that, this attracted the attention of Muslim rulers who objected to the elaborate or extravagant furnishings, like decoration. So that first mosque was razed or demolished, and a more humble structure was built on a new site. This second mosque was then replaced by this current mosque in the style of the original that the king turned his palace into the mosque. So it's a really confusing. It's kind of like the Hagia Sophia. It was this and then this and then this and then this, but it's interesting to know. All right, not a common or not a typical feature of a mosque are these torons. These are the wooden beams that you see projecting from the walls, used as scaffolding for people to climb when replastering, and obviously also therefore support of the overall structure. All right, some more things relating to form. On top of those minarets, those are the towers that call people to prayer, there is a finial. A finial is like a decorative element that's on the pole of the flags hanging in the classroom. I have a curtain rod in my living room and it has fancy things on the edges. Those are called finials. So here's an example of a finial on top of the minaret, and these are ostrich eggs, which is a symbol of fertility and purity. My curtain rod in my living room does not have ostrich eggs. Here's just a picture of the roof. All right, and what is the overall shape of the ground plan? Who knows their shapes? What is this? You're right, this is a parallelogram. So go ahead and write parallelogram shape of floor plan or ground plan. The overall shape of the mosque is a parallelogram. And whoop, yeah, that's the Great Mosque of Djenne.